Alright guys, for third time period our performer is ready and we are not going to put their relevant factors over here. So we will follow the third period now. For third period our production is 11,000. So you will write number of unit 11,000 over here, and then you can see sales units are 12,000. So 12,000 would be put in front of sales. For opening stock, here you are solving part 3. You will go to in part 2, closing stock of previous time period would be opening stock of the new time period. Here closing stock of second time period would be opening stock of third time period. So 1000 closing stock would be opening stock of the next period. For closing stock units, you will decide by yourself. Now please focus. 1000 were the number of units at starting of the period. You have produced 11,000. Total 12,000 units you have produced, out of which 12,000 you have sold. It means no number of units would be present at your closing stock. So in this way, units completed for production. Now under over applied we will decide. For that we will go to our question and you will see that 10,000 number of units. 10,000 number of unit is your capacity, and in third you have produced 11,000. Please focus. But we are trying to understand 10,000 was your standard and you have produced 11,000 number of units. It means you have overly produced. How many number of units overly produced? 10,000 capacity, produced 11,000. So 1,000 number of units are produced overly. Since it is over production, so what we will do, we write is over applied. And as you know, over applieds are subtracted. 1000 units are completed, and we have idea that in this question there is no selling, admin or marketing expenses. Per unit sale price, we will go to the question, and here per unit sale price 2400 is mentioned. You will put 2400 over here, and the cost of sales, in case of absorption costing, we need to have variable and fixed cost both. So total 1800 is your total per unit cost, and same will be used for opening stock as well. And happily we will be putting this per unit cost for production and for closing stock as well. Under over applied, as it was mentioned earlier, it was related with fixed cost only. So what we will do, we will put per unit fixed cost, and you can see per unit fixed cost is clearly mentioned 600. So we will put 600 over here. All units, okay, all per units we have written. Now we are open to calculate our total amount. Amount of sale would be calculated by multiplying units into per unit. Units are 12,000. We need to multiply per unit, which is 2400. Amount of sale is here 2880. At inner column we will calculate opening stock, which is 1000 units, multiply by per unit 1800. Opening stock is okay. Production cost, for that we will multiply units 11,000 with per unit 1800. Our production cost is okay. Now closing stock, no number of unit, that means it would be 0. For fixed cost, number of unit 1000, and we will be multiplying it with 600 per unit cost. It is completed. It's time to calculate our total cost, and we will follow these signs. First thing is to see, okay, first thing we will see opening stock, and then we need to add sign plus what, production, and then we need to subtract closing stock, though it is 0 but we will mention it. And then it was over applied, which would be subtracted, sign minus, and this is your over applied production. Total cost is here. Now we'll find out our gross profit. How would we calculate our gross profit? It is difference between cost of sales and sales. Cost is 2880 and we will subtract our total cost including variable and fixed costs. So we have got our gross profit over here. For third part, you can see your absorption costing. Third part 7800,000. So we have got our 7800,000 as there is no selling admin. Selling admin was 0. And to calculate net margin, you will subtract selling admin from gross profit. Gross profit was 7800 less nothing. So we have got our net margin which is 7800,000 and answer we have now. Okay guys, in this way our third part is also completed and we can mark it as it has been done. So in this way absorption costing all parts have been completed. In the similar way we are now up to marginal costing. These three answers are completed 7800, 4200 and 4800. We will now be following our marginal costing. So what we will do here, we will make a space for marginal costing and there we will write our income statement according to marginal costing. And how it would start? Again we need sales and we will subtract our variable cost only. The difference between marginal costing and absorption costing. First difference has arrived here. Variable and fixed both costs are written and over here only variable cost would be written. Okay, and variable cost will start as usual with opening stock. We will add production cost, will subtract closing stock. No under or over applied would be written over here. As we will subtract our variable cost from sales, we will get contribution margin and then we will subtract our fixed cost with which we will get net margin. So in this way our statement according to marginal costing will be completed. I think this space is unnecessary. We can put it directly over here. Okay. Similar way you will be writing units per unit and then amount and then finally main amount would be written over here. First part would be solved and as in marginal costing there were 3 periods. So for first period we will start our working and now let's go and we will again be focusing upon this period. Production unit 10,000. So here you will put 10,000 number of units and then you can see is sold unit 8,000. So here you will come and will write 8,000. Okay, opening stock as we know it's first time period and for starting of the any fiscal year, any income year, any accounting year, any month there will always be zero. There will not be any opening stock. For closing stock we will think 10,000 units were produced out of which only 8,000 units you were able to sell. It means 2,000 units are still in your closing stock. The basic thing or basic difference between absorption and margin costing will arrive over here. You need to put per unit cost and since we only need variable cost, this is your total cost and fixed cost is 600 and here you can calculate it total per unit. Actually it is very easy, directly it can be calculated but just for you to understand I'm writing over here total per unit cost would be equal to per unit variable cost and add per unit fixed cost. Okay, and next what you can do is to see how much total cost we have. This is 1800, that is your total cost, and you need to put per unit variable cost. Suppose it is unknown, per unit variable cost, and then you need to add per unit fixed cost, which is 600. Okay, now we want to calculate further. 600 is being added over here. You want to take it to the left side. 1800 is already present on left side, and when you will take this 600 which is added over here, if it will go to the opposite side, it would be subtracted 600, and what would left on right side? Per unit variable cost. 1800 minus 600, it means 1200 would be considered as per unit variable cost. Now I will tell you how directly it was very easy to calculate. This was your total cost 1800, and in this 600 was fixed. When you will subtract, everything would be variable, and we have calculated over here. Now you will keep it in mind, variable cost is 1200 per unit. Why we have calculated it? Look at here, in marginal costing we need to put only variable cost, while in absorption costing we were having both variable and fixed cost. That is why you have written 1800. 1800 was the cost where both fixed and variable was added, but in marginal costing we need to put variable cost only, and that we have calculated is 1200. So 1200 would be put here, and same 1200 would be used for production and closing stock. Now go up and see sale price is 2400, put over here. In this way, everything related to sale and variable cost has been completed. Now for fixed cost, what you will do? Please note it down, fixed cost will remain fixed if you are producing 10,000 unit, 8,000 or 11,000. It has been mentioned over here, production can be increased from 11,000 units up till 11,000 without corresponding increase in fixed overhead. You have already in your mind that fixed means fixed. No matter if you are producing 10,000 or 8,000 or 11,000, it would be fixed. If for 10,000 number of unit fixed cost was 600, so same will be used over here. For 10,000 number of unit, cost is 600, total fixed cost, how we will calculate? Number of unit multiplied by per unit. So it means this is your fixed cost, and it will remain same for uh, more than 10,000 or less than 10,000. We will always be writing same fixed cost over here. All units okay, all per units okay. We are now be able to calculate our amount of sales would be calculated by multiplying units into per unit, which is 2400. Sale amount is calculated. We will go to the inner column, since opening stock is 0, so total amount would also be 0. Production cost 10,000 number of units, and it would be multiplied by 1200. In this way, total production cost would be 1200,000, and then closing stock number of unit 2000, and it would be multiplied by 1200. Per unit cost closing stock has also been calculated. So what we will do, we can now calculate our total variable cost. How? You will follow these signs. First opening stock, and then we need to add production cost, which is 1200, and after which we need to subtract closing stock, which is 2400,000. So in this way we have calculated our total variable cost, after which we can calculate our contribution margin, which is actually the difference between variable cost and sales. Amount of sales 1920, and you need to subtract variable cost 9600. This way your contribution margin has been calculated. and you do know that your fixed cost is same 6 million. Here we are now able to calculate our net margin, which is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. There contribution margin 9600, you will subtract fixed cost 6000, and this way your net margin for marginal costing first part. Here you can see marginal costing first part 3600,000 and 3600,000 is here. In this way our first part has been completed. Now we are very open to calculate our marginal costing income statement for second part. For that it is easy for me. What I will do, I will hire these headings and will use the same headings for making of second part income statement. Since these values were used to calculate net margin for first part, now they are unneeded, we have erased them. Again we will be focusing upon second part, second period, and what we will do, production is 8000 for second part. Here 8000 number of units would be mentioned, go up, and see for second part 9000 units are sold. So you will write 9000 over here. And again for opening stock, what you will do, you will see first part. Closing stock of first part would be opening stock of second part. So closing stock 2000 and opening stock of next period would also be 2000. So whatever is closing stock for the previous month would be opening stock of the next month. And now we will decide if there is any closing stock. See, 2000 were opening stock and 8000 additional production. Total units you were having 10,000, out of which you were able to sell only 9000. Out of 10,000, 9,000 units you have sold. So how many number of units are still in hand? That is 1000. Okay, for sale price, we will go to the question and you can see sale price is mentioned 2400. So you will write 2400 over here. And for per unit cost, this is per unit variable cost only. And in question, here you have seen you have calculated per unit variable cost, which is 1200. And how did we calculate it? Total per unit cost was 1800, out of which 600 were fixed and remaining 1200 would be variable cost. So here you have calculated your variable cost as well, 1200, and same will be used over here. 1200 variable cost for opening stock, and happily we will use this 1200 for production and closing stock as well. Fixed cost will remain the fixed and same. As we know, for 10,000 number of units, 600 per unit was cost, and fixed cost would be calculated units 10,000 multiplied by per unit 600. It would remain same. The thing which is being discussed, this was your part 1 and you have taken fixed cost 6 lakh, and this is your part 2 and again 6000 is your fixed cost. So fixed cost will remain fixed. Here you can observe units are completed, per units are completed. We are now open to calculate our total amounts. Okay, for amount of sales we will go units and will multiply with per unit 2400. Amount of sale is calculated 2160. We will come to the inner column and will calculate opening stock number of unit 2000 and will multiply per unit 1200. And next is production cost, number of unit 8000 and it would be multiplied by per unit 1200. Now closing stock, number of unit 1000 and will be multiplied by per unit 1200. All amounts are calculated. We are now open to calculate total variable cost and we will follow these signs. Very first thing is opening stock 2400, and you need to add your production cost, which is 9600, and then you will subtract your closing stock, which is 1200. In this way, your total variable cost has arrived. It's time to calculate our contribution margin. How would we calculate contribution margin? It is difference between variable cost and sales. Amount of sale 2160, and you will subtract your total cost 1080. So in this way, 1080 is your contribution margin. And next, fixed cost will remain fixed 6000. Now we can calculate our contribution or net margin, which is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. Your contribution margin 1080, and you will subtract fixed cost, which is 6000. This way you have calculated your net margin for second part according to marginal costing. Go above. Marginal costing, second part 4800,000, and this is your second part and 4800,000. In this way, income statement according to marginal costing for second period is completed. And what we will do, we will use these statements to make our third period statement of marginal costing. We are going to start third, and naturally these amounts were used for calculation of second part. Now they are not needed, we will remove it. Now you will decide how you will design this question. I am just hiring headings from the previous part, and you will have to either make it again and again and again, or if you have any other option you can share. Okay, for third part we will go to the question. This is your third part. Unit produced are 11,000. So we will be here 11,000 units produced. Now we will see how many units sold. In third part, units sold are 12,000. So here 12,000 units sold. Opening stock, as usual, we will go to, here it is third part, we will go to the second part. Closing stock of second part would be opening stock of third part. So closing stock 1000, it would be opening stock for third period of time. Closing stock we will be calculating according to our conclusion. See, 1000 units were at starting of the period, 11,000 number of units produced in current month. Total units we were having 12,000, and we have sold 12,000 as well. So out of 12,000, 12,000 units are sold. How many number of units would be present in hand? Nothing. So zero closing stock. 12,000 produced and all 12,000 units sold. Nothing was present in hand, so closing stock 0. Fixed cost as usual. For 10,000 it was 600 per unit. So it will remain same, number of unit 10,000 multiply by per unit 600. So we have got our fixed cost. Unit side is completed. Now we will see per unit sales, for which we will go to the question. 2400 sale price per unit, put it over here. For opening stock we need variable cost, and as you know we have calculated variable cost in this way. This is third time we are using variable cost. Out of this total 1800, 600 was fixed, remaining 1200 was variable cost. So you will put 1200 variable cost over here, and this variable cost would be used in similar way for production and closing stock. Units completed, per unit completed. We are now open to calculate amounts. For amount of sales we will go to outer column, where we will calculate sales by multiplying units 12,000 into per unit 2400. Amount of sale has been calculated. Now we will migrate to inner column, where we will calculate opening stock units 1000, and it would be multiplied by per unit 1200. Opening stock is here. Production cost unit 11,000 and it would be multiplied by 1200 per unit cost. So we have production cost, finally closing stock, which is 0. So you won't be putting anything over here. Costs are completed. It's time to calculate total variable cost. How? We will follow these signs behind every element. Opening stock, and then we will add. Look over here. We can add production cost 132,000. Then we will subtract closing stock, which is actually 0. So we have our total variable cost, which is over here. Okay, now we can calculate our contribution margin, which is difference between variable cost, this is, and sales. So amount of sale is 2880. You need to subtract your closing stock 1440. So we have got our contribution margin. After contribution margin calculation, we can calculate our net margin, for which we need fixed cost, which is 6,000. Net margin is difference between fixed cost and contribution margin. Your contribution margin was 1440. You will subtract fixed cost, which is 6,000. So we have got 84,000 for net margin. Come to the question and you can see marginal costing. Third answer is 8400 and this is 8400 as well. In this way, we have completed our marginal costing as well. You can see 3600 was your first answer. This second answer 4800. You can see over here. And your third answer is 8400. So third answer 8400. All answers are completed. So thankfully, without any editing, without any interruption, all 6 answers are completed. In this way, our question number 3 is completed. All 6 answers are matched. It was really interesting and enjoyable time, and hopefully you people have enjoyed as well. Time for question number 3 has been ended. But if you have any query, any of your questions regarding this problem, you are very open to ask, you are very open to text, message, or whatever the way you want to contact, you can ask your queries. I will surely be trying to instantly answer them. Time for question number 3 is completed. Hopefully we will be meeting again for the solution of question number 4 in absorption and margin costing chapter. Up till then, please take care of yourself, and I'm requesting you to please pray for me as well. It's time to say goodbye. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.